Hello, Instructor Adam, Monroe Mann here for my Nunchuck mid-level exam for my green belt. I'm finally yellow in Taekwondo. I'm also yellow with Nunchucks. Now it's time to get to yellow or to green in Nunchucks. First step is the downward arm switch. So the trick here, by the way, I have my fractured finger here, so my left hand's a little wonky, but nonetheless. So the idea is you're gonna bring this down and it's gonna come up like this. So one, and you catch it here. And the trick that I've learned is you can't just go like this because then it just goes back and hits your back. It hits your shoulder blade. So you have to kind of whip your wrist so that it starts going out that way, such as like that. Boom. And then you basically can just catch that. And then put your hand there. And if you're not careful and you don't do that right, it'll go up and it'll hit the back of your head, which is not so fun. So I'll do this from the 5 angles. Oh, missed that one. Okay, the next is the downward combat strike. So the main thing about the combat strikes is that you have both the chucks out in front, kind of like you're sparring in a way, if you're just punching. But instead you've got your 2 nunchucks, the 2 sticks right here. With the forehand combat strike, it's basically using your forehand, it's sweeping across the top right here, and then boom, right out. And another hallmark of the combat strike is after you strike, it comes right, whoop, I just hit my elbow, boom, it comes right back into your hand. And then from that way. And it's basically just going right at the face level. So I'll do this from the 5 different angles. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Great. And the downward combat strike is basically the same thing, but instead of going out, we're going down like this. And it's the same thing, and then it comes back up and you will catch it, such as that. Oh. I have a little bit of difficulty without my pinky, but that's the idea. It's easier at this side. All right, I'll do all 5 sides. Okay, great. That's the downward combat strike. Next is combo number 2. And that combines the back switch with the, I don't remember the name of it, so I'll get that for the final test. But the back switch is, of course, this. It comes out over the back, and then the other one is this way. I think it's lateral over under is what it's called. So I need to do a lateral over under, then back switch, then do lateral over under on the other side, back switch, just like this. So, back switch, lateral over under. And it's over under because I have this hand is coming over my shoulder, and then this hand is coming underneath my shoulder, like that. And then back switch, and now it's the other side. Over, under. So I'll do this from 4 different angles now, 5 different angles. Back switch, lateral over under, back switch, lateral over under, back switch, lateral over under, back switch, lateral over under. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay, from this angle, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Fourth time's the charm. There we go. Okay. And then. Okay, from this angle. 1, 2. 1. This 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, and finally this angle. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Ow, that hurt my pinky. Probably shouldn't be doing this with a fractured finger, but black belt waits for nobody. Okay. It really hurts when you miss it because you usually end up hitting your fingertips. So I'll be honest, this happened practicing the nunchucks. No, just kidding. It was skydiving. I landed wrong and boom, landed right on my finger. Not good. Last is the shuffle kata, which I will do from 2 different angles. I think I have enough room here. If not, we'll have to move the camera angle. But, all right. Here, out. You need a lot more room for this than I thought, so let me just put this way and do it from a different angle here. It says low battery. Let's hope this thing survives for another 5 more minutes. All right, I'll start this way. This way. Through. I should have turned there. So 1, 2, 3, turn. Inward refrigerated block, up. You see me? Yeah. And that's the shufflecata from 2 different angles. And I look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Hey Monroe, how's it going? So, I just went over your Green Chevron progress check, and you did a really good job. So I'm just going to go down the list and talk about some of the details. Alright, so the first one is the downward arm switch. And on the downward arm switch, you actually had mentioned something that I like to talk about too that usually helps people. Is as you're going down with this, as you're coming up on the other side, to flip the wrist over, I actually think about just showing the back of my hand, and I call this the windshield wiper, right? So I'm going here, so I'm going down, flip it over, and windshield wiper next to me, and that allows it so that it can just kind of fall into my hand as I do this, right? That twisting at the end makes it so that it's easy to fall into my hand as long as my hand is in the right spot. If my hand's over here though, I miss it, or if my hand is over here, I'll miss it. Alright, so you just gotta make sure at that point that your hand's in the right spot, but if you get really consistent with it, then you'll be catching it most of the time, unless you jam your finger, which, it happens. Alright, but yeah, so good job on that. You did most of them. I don't think you really missed any on them on that. But yeah, so definitely have that wrist flick. Sometimes I practice that with just a collie stick, and I bring it down, and then I do that windshield wiper. Now, keep this pattern kind of going here, but I'm making sure that I flick that wrist on the side, right? So as I'm here, you can see I do this windshield wiper pattern, then bring it back around. And that's gonna be the exact same pattern as if you were going and just trying to catch it, right? So that's an easy way to kind of take it back a step just to get the pattern down, but you did a really good job on the downward arm switch. All right, next I'm gonna go over the downward combat strike. So with both of the combat strikes, forehand, downward, backhand, all of them, make sure we're holding it in a longer grip, right? So in some of the videos, you will see me holding it in a middle grip. I filmed that before I started sparring a whole lot with the Nunchucks. And I was sparring with somebody, and I was holding it not super low, but kind of like right here. Right? And I was just barely missing, right? It was just swooping right next to the guy's face, and I was so mad because I could have just hit him if I had just held it in a long grip, right? So if you're in a short grip especially, you're gonna miss a whole lot more than you need to. So always hold it into a long grip. And now chances are, if you get done with a strike and it bounces back, you might catch it here. And I do that all the time, just adjust it back. So that whenever you're kind of in this fighting position with your hands here on both of them, that's when you adjust to get it back, whenever you're not actually striking or trying to block. You might have to quickly block here and then adjust to that long grip. That way you can have these strikes. All right, so back to the downward combat strike. One thing I want you to try to do is keep the chuck on one side of your body as you're doing the downward combat strike. All right, so I split right on my center line. I'm gonna have this on the front side of my body. I'm not gonna do it on the back side. So I wanna keep the chuck on this side as I go for this downward, right? So I'm not gonna bring it across. See how it's going to that side? If I have this center line here, I don't want it to come across here. I want it on that center line, straight downwards, or just off to the side of that center line, and again, I'm going downwards. Another thing when you're doing this, you're really only gonna do the downward combat strike with whatever hand is in front, right? So if this foot's in front, this hand's in front, this is the side I'm gonna do it on. If I'm gonna do the other side, I'm going to switch which hand and foot is in the front whenever I'm doing this downward combat strike. One of the reasons why is if I try to go here, it's very likely that you're going to end up hitting your knee, as if you're actually keeping it going in a straight downward path. If not, well, then you're probably just going to end up turning it into a forehand combat strike, right? Which isn't wrong if you can hit it with the forehand combat strike, but it's not a downward combat strike, right? So we're using them for slightly different purposes. So keep it here on that center line, trying not to bring it here, because that's just becoming a forehand combat strike as I go here. So think about those angles. We want this one downwards, and we want to keep that leg in front as we do it. So I don't want to go with this one if I'm doing it downward. All right, forehand combat strike. So on this one, same thing, long grip. Now you are bringing it across the body, and then I want you to turn your hips with it a little bit to help generate some power, right? So I can turn my hip on either side whenever I'm doing this, here, to get that power as I go through, as opposed to just without the hips. Add some hips in there, and I'm not sure how well the audio is picking up for it, if you can actually hear the difference. I can as I swing it. I can definitely hear the difference between when I use my hips and when I don't. So try to practice adding some hip movement in there to just generate a little bit more power with it. And again, you're probably going to catch it here. Go back and just kind of slide your hand down, feel where it's at, and then get to that long grip each time whenever you're doing this. All right, but for the most part, it looked really good. You had good reach. Just add a little bit more hip into that. Next, we've got combination number 2. So on combination number 2, back switch, and then the lateral over under. You did remember the name. Yeah, you did a great job on this. So all I'm really going to do is going to show you a variation of the back switch, and so that you can choose which one you want to do, right? So the back switch that I saw you doing is this one, where we raise the elbow up and we go over, see the chuck over my shoulder. All right, nothing wrong with this. If you want to continue doing it this way, keep doing it this way. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But you have the option of going beside the shoulder as you're doing this instead of over, and this allows your elbow to stay back or stay down. You will have to tuck back a little bit, so you're gonna have to pull your shoulder blades in as you do this method, all right? So it's here. It's a little bit more towards the side, and I'm next to, but it doesn't tire your arm out as much as if you do these big motions, raising it all the way up. All right, so you can go here, and then for some people it's a little bit easier just to be able to catch it. Now, again, try both options, see which one you like, do which one you like the best. If you want to even mix them up, that's fine. I'm just giving you a different option here because you did it, no problem, with the other way. All right, and then the last thing was shuffle kata. So, the first time you did shuffle kata from the front angle, you had forgotten a step during the opening sequence, right? So, and I think that might have just been the fact that you were really close to the camera and you just didn't want to have to hit the camera, right? So I think that's what it was. The second time you did it, you added the step, but the step that you forgot. So here, shuffle forward, high block, kick, front stride, up, together, and now that step right there as you do that outward figure 8. That's going to be the one that you forgot the first time, right? But again, you did it the second time, so go on that. The next thing on here is I want you to try to flatten out your side strikes, right? So a lot of your side strikes are going downwards at this angle here, right? It's kind of like a diagonal strike. I want all of your side strikes, I want you to drop your elbow and then go in this horizontal plane of motion, aiming at the head, right? But you can see how it's a lot more horizontal as opposed to diagonal, right? So I want your side strikes to be moving. So all of them, and anytime, almost every time that you do that around the neck, you're probably starting it with a side strike. So have that in a much more horizontal plane of motion as you do it, as opposed to that diagonal plane of motion. And then the last thing is going to be for combination number 5, right? I know you didn't show combination number 5, but it's the last combination of the form. And it's that around the neck, part 1, boom, up, and then we go to part 2, boom, up, and then we end up finishing the form. So that part right there, I want you to just work on getting that to be the fastest part of the form, right? So in these forms, we're kind of building up speed as we do it. So it's not going to be the same pace the entire time. I want you progressively going faster and faster and faster, and I want that last combination to be the fastest, right? And that last combination is combination number 5. Probably told you this already, told a lot of people, but I forget who I've told. For the first 4 chevron levels, combination number 5 is the last combination of that level's kata. So just keep that in mind. So always practice that one a lot and try to make that one the fastest because we want to end the forms going fast, right? So just keep that in mind. Practice that one. Try to get it a little bit faster. And then again, same thing in that combination as well. Have those flatter side strikes instead of diagonal side strikes. but it was looking good, right? The form overall was looking good. You kind of messed yourself up a little bit whenever you had to do those little adjustment steps. So if you can, try to find a place where you are able to move around without having to do the adjustment steps. You'll find this is going to be the biggest form as far as space requirements goes, but try to find something. Just be aware you're going to move forward a little bit, and then you kind of come back to the center. It makes just kind of like a big cross. All right, so you do move, I think, a little bit more backwards than you will be moving forwards on this. So just kind of keep that in mind. Make sure you start off with enough space behind you as you're doing this. But it is a pretty big form. Just try to find a spot where you can practice it without having to do those adjustment steps, because the adjustment steps kind of, they can, when you're on a roll, you know, and you have to stop, you kind of mess up. So just find something so you can just keep rolling through it and not have to stop. That way you don't have to worry about any mistakes or, did I do that? I don't remember because I reset. Right, so just try to get rid of that problem altogether by having a little bit bigger of a space to practice in if you can. Right? If not, it's fine to do the adjustment steps. Just be aware that a lot of mistakes usually happen after that because of the stopping and kind of, you know, messing up the flow that you had already established. So just keep that in mind. All right, but all in all, like I said, you did a really good job. Your chuck handling is really good, even with a messed up pinky. Right? When I saw that, I was like, man, I hope it's not from Chucks. So I was happy to hear that it wasn't from Chucks, but hopefully it's healing up nicely now. All right. But yeah, if you have any questions on anything that I just covered today, feel free to send me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right. Have a great day, Monroe. And happy 4th of July.